everybody, here once again to the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show on 1250 Wins WHNZ. You could find me here every Mondays at noon, but you can only do that for another 2 weeks, as this show will be changing formats and going to Mondays through Fridays at 8 a.m. on 1250 WHNZ. We'll be changing formats to become a business and entrepreneurial show, and it will be known as That Business Show with Jamie Meloni, again, airing Mondays through Fridays starting February 2nd at 8 a.m. So I invite any and all entrepreneurs looking to get some free airtime on the radio. Shoot me a quick email, jamie@tampabayradio.com. I'm always happy to promote local business and entrepreneurship here in the Tampa Bay region and even abroad or nationally as well. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur looking to get some airtime, shoot me an email. I'd love to talk with you. Again, email me, jamie@tampabayradio.com. Going to bring on my second guest for the show today, Shawn Rhodes, who is an award-winning war correspondent, achieving the highest recognition from the United States Marine Corps for combat reporting. Responsible for creating strategic communication programs in the most dangerous places on Earth, Shawn was ranked among the top 20 of public speakers in the world by Toastmasters International for his ability to effectively and passionately communicate messages. As a director of Shoshin Consulting Services in Tampa, Florida, he presents seminars, workshops, and in-house training programs for companies ranging from entrepreneurial startups to the largest corporations in America. Shawn is a frequent speaker at regional, national, and international conventions. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate you having me on.
That's quite an impressive, just a brief segment of your bio. Tell me a little bit more about yourself and what brought you from running around the world in some of these combat zones to working with one of the largest companies in the world now.
Absolutely, Jamie. So my job with the Marine Corps is very unique. I was what they call a war correspondent, and it's actually a job that you can enlist in when you go into the military. And they gave me that because I could put two words together. So they said, Shawn, with the Marines, man, you got to be on the battlefield. You got to be telling their stories. That's exactly what I did for them. Now, I realized that when I was running around the world, I was actually studying mindset. I was studying what made these guys more passionate than any other employee workforce on the planet. And so when I exited the Marine Corps, went to work for the corporate world, went to work for the government, and realized that regular employees in industries all across America need this same kind of training. I also noticed that the most passionate organizations in America, the 50 brands that we really look at to say, yeah, these are the guys that are owning their marketplace, they're already running these programs for their employees. So I wanted to be able to offer that straight from what they taught people in the military to go and work harder, fight harder, and for less money, and put that in the hands of people who are directing these organizations for civilians.
And what was your years of service? And tell us a little bit about some of the tours of duty that you served in the military.
Absolutely. So I was with the First Forces to cross over from Kuwait into Iraq in 2003. That was my first combat tour there. And I went back in 2004 for the Battle of Fallujah from probably March until October. And it was with the Marine Corps both times, but fortunately for me, because of my position, I was given carte blanche of the battlefield. They just said, Shawn, we need you to be where the firefights are. Hop on a helicopter or a jet if you need to go to another place, but we want you to get the stories of the people that are making history, capture why they're able to do that so that we can understand it better as the Department of Defense, and so that their families and people around the world can understand the sacrifices these guys were making every single day on the battlefield.
Now, where did your stories show up? Were these essentially freelance reports that were then sent out to the CNNs, the Fox Newses, and all that? How did the information get disseminated?
Absolutely. So my job as a Marine war correspondent meant that they could order me into places that civilian reporters refused to go. Mm-hmm. So if a civilian saw a firefight and said, yeah, there's no way I'm making it out of that alive, they'd tap me on the shoulder and they'd say, Corporal, you're up. So they could order me into these places. So as a result of that, I was able to get access that civilian reporters weren't able to have. And my stories appeared in Time, CNN, on MSNBC, all over the place, hundreds and hundreds of international news organizations, because I was where the news was happening.
That's very nice. And let me take a moment to extend my gratitude for your service. I have nothing but the highest level of respect for our servicemen and women. As a matter of fact, I considered going into the military out of high school, but I just did not have the discipline. I knew I would get in there and probably just get mad at a drill sergeant for yelling at me because I'm kind of independent, and I just couldn't do it. It's one of my regrets in life was not going into the military, and the structure and the discipline and the service that they give to our country is something of tremendous value, especially in the workplace. I mean, if you hire a veteran, you're going to have somebody that's very dedicated and very well qualified, and not only, with that, but they can learn stuff very well, and they understand, the importance of taking direction from superior people within the military. And I see you're using that same concept within this company as well, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Now, there's a lot of experts out there that talk about the mission. What makes you different? What have you learned that we can't find anywhere else?
Absolutely. So missions have been a very popular term in business in the world for the last 30 or 40 years even, and there's plenty of consultants that are going out there helping companies find their mission. I support what they do. I think it's vital that that happens for every single company. My different kind of slant on it, my different take, is that I want to figure out how to get mission implemented at every level of an organization. A lot of people will tell you how to define a mission for a company, and that may live on a board somewhere in the break room. That's not enough for me. What I noticed on the battlefield was these guys didn't just know their mission as a literal thing that they could repeat. They actually felt it. It was an emotional response for them. So what I do for companies is help them take that mission and make sure that every employee, all the way from the CEO down to the guy dealing with the customer on the front line, understands how to actually live that mission, what it looks like for each individual company to embody why your company exists. And as a result of that, I've gone over the world to interview the people who are really the thought leaders in what it takes to live mission. And one of my recent interviews was Professor Hiro Takeuchi of the Harvard Business School, and he said mission is as simple as why a company exists. But to be able to take that why and get it into every level of the organization, that's what I love doing for people and companies.
Now, tell me more about the history of your company. When was it founded? When and how has it developed since then?
Absolutely. My company was founded probably about 2 years ago. I was still working for the Department of Defense, and for anyone that keeps up on government news, the entire government shut down about a year and a half, 2 years ago. It sent everybody home. And I realized the most secure job in America was not that secure anymore. And I had been doing this work for the Department of Defense, for the service members and the civilians working there. Loved it to the depth of my heart, and I wanted to be able to give that to a wider audience. So that's when I founded Shoshin Consulting, to take it to companies in America.
Now, you mentioned you traveled the world studying peak performance. Where else did you see belief and mission lead to success?
So I spent my lifetime studying this warrior mindset, and that brought me to the Marine Corps, brought me to the battlefields, but I realized that I wanted to be able to find people that were living that warrior mindset, and they weren't in the military. The people that could come home every day and take their kids to soccer practice or cook dinner with their family. How do you live from an internal mission and still do those things that we all enjoy doing? I found those in martial artists. And so to embed myself in what they were doing, the same way I did with the Marines, I traveled to Japan and lived as a traditional warrior student in one of the last temples that you can still do this, and realized that these guys made their mission part of every movement, every action, how they spoke to each other, the respect they had when they interacted. Everything was embodied with this mission. And I made the connection that the best companies in America are doing this for their employees as well.
Now, tell me a little bit about the transition that, men and women go from the armed services back into the workforce. And you hear so much about PTSD and the challenges that many veterans face when entering the workplace. What is your experience with regard to this, and how did you make that transition?
Absolutely. The thing that I noticed about veterans is they're extremely well trained, not just in their jobs, but in how to learn. On the battlefield, you have to learn someone else's entire job quickly enough to be able to be effective in a very short amount of time. And so what veterans are in the workforce is it's like taking a Lamborghini and setting it down in any other car lot, on a Honda lot or on a Mazda lot, and you're looking at this extremely well-tuned sports car, and the car wants to go fast, but it realizes it can only go as fast as the cars around it. So a lot of veterans have trouble when they enter the workforce because they want to go 1,000 miles an hour like they did in the military, but you can't do that in everyday business. People have different ways of doing business with each other, and veterans have to learn that. As far as PTSD goes, some of the stuff that these guys go through over there, it is absolutely amazing that they come out alive, that they come out sane. And it's really great that the Department of Veterans Affairs and so many businesses are taking the extra time to take these guys in, to say, we understand what you've been through, we can't begin to comprehend it, but we want to give you a place back in society where you can take the mindset that you've gained, the experiences that you've had, and give those back to our business so that you can continue the rest of your life living a life of service, which is what drives most veterans.
Yeah, and also I'd like to just extend a general invite to any of our men and women in the armed services that have served. They're welcome, anytime as a guest on my show. I'd love to hear about your experiences. Just quickly shoot me an email, jamie@tampabayradio.com. I extend that service, of course, free of charge to any and all men and women that have served in our armed forces. I'd love to have you in the studio here to talk with you. I love what they do, and again, very proud of the men and women that have served in our military. So tell me, how does having a clear mission that employees understand, believe, and drive revenue?
Yeah, so the grand thing about having a mission that employees understand and can express is that it gives you this wonderful term, alignment, which is a very popular term in business now as well. What I've discovered is that alignment is responsible for about 90% of return customers. So every company understands that it costs much more money to bring in a new customer than it does to take an old customer and sell them something else. What alignment does is it gives that customer an experience. Every single time I contact Westfall Roofing, for instance, I know I'm going to get a person who is glad to have me on the phone, who understands my needs, has some experience with my roof and my neighborhood, and is going to be able to give me a great experience time and time again. And that's because the people at Westfall Roofing and companies across America understand exactly what their missions are. That's really the main thing that it gives you. Now, that's how it makes you money. How it saves you money is it saves you from what's called a disengaged employee. And a disengaged employee will cost companies at a minimum $2,200 every single year, a minimum. Now, a lot of the companies I work for around Tampa and around America, the expenses are much higher than that in training, hiring, recruitment, and retention. So it can stretch easily into $10,000 for each single employee. So what that gives you is the ability to take an employee and say, let's get them passionate, let's get them engaged, and that happens through company mission.
Yeah, and I always stress the importance of people is what makes your company. I mean, you cannot underestimate the value of your people. I was talking with Ryan prior to the interview, and we were talking about one of the biggest challenges in growing a business is expansion. I mean, we all struggle with that. We all know how to do our little niche, job very well, but then when we start to expand and trust this into others, it can be a challenge. But if you find the right people, you can really scale your business to huge, success. And again, that is probably one of the most challenging parts of growing a business, would you not say?
Absolutely. And to piggyback on what you just said about expanding, a lot of companies don't understand very clearly what it is they do and the product or service that they actually provide to their customer. And rarely is it what they're installing. For instance, roofing, you're not just putting a roof on that house, you're providing a blanket of security for that person. Right, so it's vitally important that companies understand that. What happens when they don't is they'll expand into product lines that people don't know them for, that their employees can't connect. Why are we doing this now? We're not a iPod company, we're a roofing company. Why are we making MP3 players? Silly stuff like that you see happen in the marketplace all the time because the company is not aligned with exactly what it does, what product or service it really provides, and it's usually an emotional one, and then how to deliver that best to the customer. So when expanding, it's absolutely vital that you understand what your company does and what your mission is.
Yeah, absolutely. Some great points here from Shawn Rhodes with Shoshin Consulting. Stay tuned. Got to take a quick break, but you're listening here to the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show on 1250 WINS WHNZ. We'll be back in a moment.
Here's Jamie.
Hello again, everybody, and thanks for staying tuned in here to the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show on 1250 WINS WHNZ. Currently talk with Shawn Rhodes of Shoshin Consulting. And so, Shawn, what do you do through speaking, workshops, and coaching?
Yeah, so a lot of the different ways I deliver my services are through the methods you just mentioned. Speaking is a huge part of it. Now, my position as one of the top public speakers in the world means that I love to talk, but more important than that is that I can teach employees how to communicate effectively as well. And when we're dealing with the C-level of an organization, trying to explain to the guy working the factory floor, here's what we actually believe, it's vital to be able to communicate that clearly. And the way I deliver my services is usually through workshops, sitting down with the leadership, sitting down at an all-hands meeting, and just talking to the employees about what you actually believe your company does, how you deliver that, and ways forward, ways that you see the company going in the future that you feel really passionate being a part of.
Now, you mentioned you were one of the top public speakers in the world, and so tell me how you received that title. Is that self-imposed because you like to speak a lot?
I wish it was. No, the organization Toastmasters International every single year has a great competition. It's called the World Championship of Public Speaking, and it's held all over the world, different places. This year it was in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, and I won every single competition around the state of Florida in my region for Toastmasters International, and they brought me to that international competition to compete for the world title. And I'm going to tell you, there are some amazing speakers in that organization. If anyone's interested in how to be a better presenter, get to your local Toastmasters club. But as a result of the competition, I made it into the top 20, so that's a title that I get to carry for the rest of my life now.
Well, you definitely have a very good speaking voice, and you also said you had some experience in the radio business as well, correct?
Absolutely. So in the Marine Corps, as part of my duties, I was a crisis communicator, I was a broadcaster. So we'd be on the battlefield, and we would have to bomb a building because there were some bad guys in there, right? And for some reason, news reporters would show up out of nowhere. They didn't know it was happening, but you'd see these CNN guys show up, Time folks show up, and I was the one that was responsible for getting in front of them and explaining how this demolished building behind us was actually a necessity necessity to keep our guys safe on the battlefield.
Right.
So speaking in that is really important, really important.
Yeah, so I guess you kind of got hit with a lot of kind of why are we doing this type of mentality, and kind
Absolutely.
of explain that and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
we definitely see that in the news every single day, of course. And so, tell us. I want to come back to this, public speaking competition. I mean, how do you compete in speaking? What do you do? I mean, do you pull a topic out of a hat and say, all right, you got to talk about this and see who does best, or how does that work?
There are two different types of competitions that Toastmasters has that take it to the international level. One is called a table topics competition, and this is where you literally pull a topic out of a hat, more or less, and then you have to just riff on it for 2 or 3 minutes. Now, my competition was for the World Championship of Public Speaking, so it's a 5 to 7 minute speech, usually a topic that is inspirational in nature. So I told a story about a letter that I carried under my body armor in Iraq that was written to my mother, and an experience that I had where I thought I wasn't going to survive that day. And the only thought that I had as the world went black around me was, I have to figure out a way to start living the words in this letter, that I don't want to die with my music still inside me, that kind of message. So that's the type of speech that you give at the World Championship level.
Very, very interesting. Now, do you do regular speaking around the Tampa Bay region?
Absolutely. I do keynotes around Tampa, usually for organizations, sales training, regional get-togethers for their folks, a lot of that. And then also speaking is just a part of what I do in my business, to be able to explain to groups of business people what it is that they do, help them define it for themselves, and then how to push that out to employees so they can be passionate as well.
Okay, so if I'm just starting a company or I'm a smaller sized business, what do I need to know about mission and passion early on?
Absolutely. It's essential that you understand about mission early on in your company. And it's not to say that your mission won't change. It likely will as you develop different markets. You begin to niche down a little for what you're doing. But your mission should be why you do what you do. Simon Sinek, a great speaker on this topic, he says that no one buys what you sell. They buy why you sell it. So figure out very early on what your driving passion is. It may be your kids. It may be that you want to take your product or service and make the world a better place through it, and that's okay. But get it down and use that as your set point every single day when you're going out there. And if you can do that effectively, you'll be more excited about what you do. You'll get more into what you're selling, and people will sense that passionate connection that you're trying to have with them, and that'll result inevitably in more sales.
Yeah, some great tips. And I myself am on a new mission as I rebrand the radio show and take it to a 5-day-a-week format. And my passion right now is just growing my business through local entrepreneurs and business owners, because they are the backbones of the economy. And I think it's a great format for a radio show, something that you do not see on the radio in this region at all. You hear, as I call them, the professional complainers and the talking heads that are on 24/7, and has created this void, or this divide, I should say, within our society of left versus right. It's always what Fox News is saying. Then you flip over and you see the counterpoint by MSNBC, and then you got all the right-wing guys dotting the airwaves of the radio stations. And I'm a self-confessed news junkie. And so I hear this stuff, and it's just driving me crazy. So I was thinking, I'm already on the radio doing a real estate show. I like being on the radio. I got a good network of people. It's time to bring a positive message to the marketplace here. And you yourself, Ryan at Westfall Roofing, these are the types of people that I think need to be heard out in our community. And that is my new mission. Something. And the point you just raised, a very good point. As well. So something that I'll be thinking about. Every single morning when I get up, because I'm not used to having to get up at 6:30 to get in here.
Oh, it's rough, man.
Yeah, I'm a real estate agent, right? I'm supposed to be able to get up at 9 or 10 o'clock, right? And so that'll be a change. I'm gonna have to get up every single day. But I got some experience with that. I used to work rotating shifts in industry, 12 hours. I used to have to be up at 5 a.m. to be in the facility by 6 a.m. And but very exciting time to be on the air for myself. So I'm very excited with it. So tell me a little bit more. What about larger companies? What is a lack of a clearly defined mission costing them?
Yeah, the larger companies, you really see this. One of the things that any business owner, any person that's ever had a leadership or a management position is going to see that a lack of mission causes is silos. A silo inside of a large business is when you have different departments. Say I'm in the accounting department and you're in the design department, and we're sitting down for a meeting with the marketing department. We don't have a clearly defined mission. We're not all on the same page. We don't have the same goal. What that's going to cause us to do is everybody in my department is only going to be worried about my resources and getting my job done. And I'm going to be protecting my folks because they're mine, right? And everything sees is these resources that you have, these fiefdoms start to show up. What a mission does is it breaks down the walls of those silos. It breaks down the walls of those fiefdoms, and it gets everybody on the same page so that we can be in different departments with different roles, but we understand that there's just one purpose that we have as an organization, and we can all be on the same page to lend resources whenever necessary so that we reach that one goal. That's really what a mission can do for a large organization.
Now, what success stories have you seen from companies who are using these philosophies? How does this make them more revenue and save them money?
You can look at American companies, international companies do this as well. One of the great success stories I like to refer to is one of Shimano Bicycle Company. And they don't even make bicycles, they make bicycle gears. So if anyone listening to this has a mountain bike in your garage, you probably got a Shimano gear on there. Even road bikes, same thing. Now, Shimano started in a little shed in Japan prior to World War II, and all they were doing was making bicycle gears. Now, after the war, they retooled their shop and began making bicycle gears for road bikes because that's what was popular. Their mission was always to allow people to experience adventure. Now, it's very important you remember that because as Shimano, each new CEO took that mission forward in a new way. They never made bicycles, but they figured out how do we get people to experience adventure in new ways. And so as their original subset of consumers grew older, they started making bicycle gears that were geared for older folks so they could change gears more easily. And then they branched out into making reels for fishing rods. So you'll see a lot of Shimano reels out there. And even today you'll begin to see Shimano paddles for kayaks and canoes. They always maintained that original mission, but they always were profitable because they stayed inside of their lane. And then you look at companies like Disney, which is still profitable, but a couple of years ago they went through a very strange time where they were trying to move into adult entertainment industries. Not adult entertainment, but they were trying to buy companies like Miramax and ABC. Right. And it wasn't in line with the family and fantasy that people knew them for. And as a result of that, they suffered. So I always advise companies to get very clear on what their mission is and then to stay in that lane as they begin to expand and branch out, as we discussed earlier. Yeah, some great advice, absolutely. So, it sounds like the companies that use this are really benefiting. If someone wants to get to know more about you and the work that you do, what's the best way to get in touch with you? I'd say go to my website, www.shoshinconsulting.com. That's SHOSHIN consulting.com. There you'll have articles, podcasts, videos, everything that you need in order to get a fuller understanding about what it really means to live mission in your business. And then please give me a call. My phone number is 828-380-1823. Happy to talk with anybody about how you can move your mission forward. That's 828-380-1823. All right, great interview. Thank you very much, Shawn, for some great tips, and a pleasure having you in. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And if you didn't get his information, we'll get him up on the TampaBayRadio.com page on the feature page here shortly. If you are just tuning in, you've been listening to the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show here on 1250 Wins, WHNZ. Off air, find me again, TampaBayRadio.com. And I will see y'all back in here next Monday at noon on 1250 WHNZ on the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show.